Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This is using the beautiful, and that's funny because that's part of the name, Beautiful You stamp set in the Occasions catalog. And I just love this stamp set. It's got so many pieces, and today I'll be using this this stamp and this stamp, Life Looks Beautiful on You. And I just think it's such a pretty stamp set and have been dying to do something with it. And this is what I have come up with. And this is a very fast and very easy card to put together. What I've used is Tip Top Taupe 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And we'll just go ahead and get that folded. Let's see, there's my bone folder. And get that set aside here. Then I used Mint Macaron, and this piece is 5 1/4 by 4, and this is the layering piece and the background on this particular piece. Then I have a piece of Very Vanilla, 4 by 5 1/4 for the interior of the card. Then I have a piece of designer series paper. This is part of that Falling in Love designer series paper, and this measures right at 5 inches by 3 3/4 inch, again layering. And I've used one of our doilies, and let's just go ahead and get started, and I'll show you the technique that I used to get this up. This designer series paper has places in it where the designer series patterns, and there's one that has lace. This one has lace, and this one has like dappled branches with like dew or something on it. And this is one I picked particularly for this video so I could show you. This is a piece of, or a part of, that designer series paper that has very little pattern on it. And so this technique is going to add some pattern to this. So what I've done is I've taken some crumb cake ink here. Make sure that's right, crumb cake ink, and a sponge. And what I've done is I want to darken this. I'm starting on the Very Vanilla side of these. These doilies are great because they come in white on one side and Very Vanilla on the other. And so I'm just going to take it right up in this corner, and I'm going to sponge here over this doily, because I do want to darken the doily anyway, but you'll see what happens here as I work the sponging along here. And I'm going to move that out of the way, and there you see the pattern of the doily on the face of the designer series paper. So now I'm going to pick another spot, this spot right down here, that looks like it has very little in the way of pattern, and I am going to sponge across another piece of this doily. And you have a lot more ink on your sponge than you think you do often, and you don't want to be too violent with this process because you don't want to tear your doily. But you see how the pattern emerges. And so on a piece of pattern paper that didn't have a lot of design on it, here we end up with a nice bit of design. So I'm going to continue sponging my doily one more time here in this spot, and there we have this pretty little pattern in addition to what was already on here. And my doily is now completely sponged, and that's all I need the crumb cake for. The next thing I'm going to do is I have the girl here mounted on a pretty good sized block here, and I'm going to take my archival black ink and I'm going to ink her up. And that looks pretty good. And I'm going to set her, you see here, kind of in the middle, but not too far towards the bottom, because I want place for my ribbon. In a class that I recently did, someone had set her down fairly close to the bottom, but it's an easy fix. She had her ribbon then going across the corner of the card, and it looked absolutely stunning that way as well. So I'm going to set her kind of right in the middle on the upper part of this piece of designer series paper. And there we have her. And then I have my sentiment, Life Looks Beautiful on You. So I'm going to put my Life Looks Beautiful on You, and I'm going to put it right up here on the card. And there we have it. Okay. And again, this card is just very simple. And the other thing I'm going to do for the inside of the card, I've decided that this particular one that I did just has the half of the doily on the inside. I think I'm also going to put an impression of the young girl down here on the bottom in this corner, maybe a little bit at an angle. So there she is. That's what I'm going to add to the bottom of the inside, and that is all of the stamping there is to do on this card. All right, and now it's just assembly. And I'm going to take my base, and I am going to mount this piece on my Mint Macaron with some snail. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right. Now, the detail that I have on this one is I have some of this pretty gold satin ribbon. And let's see, what does it say here? Gold. And I know it's satin. It's double-sided satin ribbon, and it's absolutely luscious. And I'm just going to cut a generous portion here, and on this one I tried to keep it simple, no bow tying, just to put a knot in the ribbon itself, more to one side than the other. There we go. And I'm putting it across this pool, if you will. That end doesn't want to, looks like it doesn't want to stay down. Let me add a little bit of glue. I think it was my repositioning that caused it to be a little less sticky. Okay, and so I'm going to pull this kind of across here and adhere this to the back of this card. And I think I'll start with this end because I want that knot to be about there. And so now making that straight and come across and trim a little bit of this off. And there we have our ribbon. Now what I'm going to do to secure this ribbon, because it is satin and it is a little slippery, is I'm going to take a glue dot here and I'm going to tuck it right on the back side of this knot so that piece of ribbon stays pretty well secure. All right. The only other decoration that I put on this piece is I used the Bermuda Bay watercolor pencil, and I colored her hat and her dress. There's one additional detail I'll add to her dress here in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to get everything put into and onto the card. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this piece on the front of my card. Let's see if I can get this one on. Straight the first time. And there, I think that's it. And go ahead and put this piece on the inside. There we go. Now, we have the doily that we colored. And what I'm going to do is cut it in half. And I am going to add half of it to the inside of the card with a little bit of Tombow. And see if I can dot a little bit of the Tombow here on the back side of this doily. There's plenty of surface to get some glue on this, and as long as you kind of get the tips down so that it'll stay put, I think it works pretty well. I'm going to use a pair of tweezers, I think, to pick this up. And put this on the inside of the card. And since I put her on one end, I think I'll put this doily on the other side here. Right up against the edge of that card. I think that's very attractive for the inside of the card. Very nice. Okay, now on the outside, what I want to do is add a little bit more of this doily detail. So I'm going to cut this quarter piece, or this half piece, in quarters, and I think I'm just going to tuck this piece right up in here. Now that's covering part of her hand, but doesn't bother me that much, because I can always, maybe if I cut this down just a hair, so that slides further up in the corner. It's actually going to require more surgery here. So now I need to get a little bit of Tombow on the back of this. On the back, that would be good. I'll erase that other piece later that I managed to put on the front, not where I wanted it. And in fact, maybe I can get that little bit of glue off of there. All right. Now I'm going to take this little piece of lacy doily and snip another little piece off. And I require just a little bit more trimming here. To get that up in this corner so that it looks like it fits. Now you don't have to add that piece, and I made this a little bit more convoluted than it probably needed to be, but since I'd sponged it, I wanted to go ahead and add the piece here, and I'm just going to trim along the edge here and then secure that down, and I think that looks fine, and I like the additional detail. Okay, so the last piece to add adornment on here is I am using a retired product, and I apologize for that, but this was the Dazzling Details. It was like a Stickles product that Stampin' Up! Did, and when they brought out Wink of Stella, they retired this product. But I tried Wink of Stella on this card, and I didn't like it nearly as well. I love the effect of this particular, the Dazzling Diamonds, the product here. And it goes on just like Stickles. You add a little bit and kind of work it around on your project. And Stickles will work just fine on this. And instead of using a blender pen to move the color around, this sparkle stuff actually moves the color around on the watercolor pencil beautifully. The only thing I will say about using this on the dress is now it requires some pretty serious drying time, a good 20 or 30 minutes. And so you'll want to just set it up and set it aside and let it dry. But I just love the amount of sparkle that this particular product adds to this. Stampin' Up! Can we have our Dazzling Diamonds or Dazzling Details back again? I love this stuff. I was so sad when they retired it. And so that's all there is to it. That's the end of the product, or the project for today. It really is quite a simple process, and I think the results are pretty stunning. And so here we have the one we did today with a little bit more detail on the inside of the card, which I think I like better than this one, which was pretty plain. So that is the project for today using the Beautiful You. You can order anything you see here right from my website, except of course the Dazzling Details, www.lbedinger.stampinup.net. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. And or you could join my team. And we've got a little bit of time left in the month for the special deal for joining. Through the end of celebration, which is the end of the month, Stampin' Up! Gives you $125 worth of product for $99, which is the normal deal for signing up under Stampin' Up! But during the celebration time, again, which ends at the end of the month, you get to pick an additional 2 stamp sets from any of the live catalogs. And that, and then always you get $40 in product from me for joining my team. And so during Sale-Abration, you can get almost $200 worth of products for $99. And it allows you to order your own supplies at a discount, or you could have the start of a business for yourself. In any case, I'd love to have you join me. And I'll be back soon with more projects. Bye.